Hello again. So, if you've watched any of my security breach streams, which you probably haven't, let's be honest, but if you did, you would have heard me talk about this YouTuber ID's Fantasy and how they were better than MatFat with their security breach theories, like, way better. I made a post about them making a sister location video, and I watched it, and, well, it was amazing. I highly recommend that you check it out. It was also a huge win for me. A lot of the theories and conclusions that I had come to were validated in that video. Literally, like every minute or so, I just paused the video and celebrate a victory because I had gotten something right. Anyway, enough stalling. You guys are here for the theory, I think. Alright, here we go. Consider this the finale to my when is sister location theories. So, in my original video, I concluded that sister location takes place in 1986. I stand by that. This video is mainly me doing a better job explaining my evidence. Now, I'm not going to go over everything that I went over in my first video just for the sake of time, so if you really want the full story, watch that one and this one, or this one and that one, it doesn't matter. But I'm just not going to go as in-depth into the things that I did there, and then I will here, I'm going to do more evidence and some of the weaker points I had, explain them more here. So, if some stuff I gloss over, watch the other video. Alright, let's take the easy evidence first. Motive. Michael's goal across all the FNAF games is to fix the sins of his father William. William's motives across the games are to experiment with Remnant and gain eternal life. Michael's journey starts in Sister Location. By 1987, he is already on his mission. Therefore, Michael would have had to be at Sister Location before 1987, so he would have had the motive to be at Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Sister Location being early in the timeline also helps sort out the most confusing part of this timeline, Elizabeth's death. See, everyone thought that Elizabeth's death was first, and this is what caused William to start his rampage. This is not true. Crying Child dies first. William gets drunk and crazy and kills Charlie. He realizes that Charlie possessed the puppet and it intrigues him. At this point, there has been both a bite and a murder at Fredbear's, so it closes in 1984-85. Henry has an idea that William might be responsible for his daughter's death, but doesn't really do anything about it. William wants to conduct more experiments, but can't do it under Fazbear Entertainment and Henry's watchful eye, so he creates his own company, Afton Robotics. He makes the animatronics very sophisticated, which makes them more attractive to investors trying to fund Afton Robotics. Also, if the animatronics have a lot of high-tech components, then maybe it might be easier to ignore the more odd schematics of the robots, this being the claw, the stomach hatch, and the voice modulation, and all the other child kidnapping things. William, being the outstanding go-getter that he is, decides to get a head start by killing 5 kids at the 1985 Freddy's location. He stuffs the kids in the suits of the animatronics to hide the bodies, and boom, the animatronics are possessed. Now the FNAF 3 minigames take place. Do you understand? I've been saying it for so long, but ID's Fantasy saw the missing piece that I didn't. The buttons on Freddy. Buttons. FNAF 1 Freddy doesn't have buttons. You know who does? Withered Freddy. See, this is what I've been saying for so long. William took apart the 1985 animatronics, and like I said in my last sister location video, this would also explain why the withered animatronics are in such a bad state by FNAF 2. If they were just sitting in a back room for a couple of years, they would not look that bad, but they would look bad if William took them apart and tried to put them back together to throw off suspicion. 1985 Freddy's closes and Circus Baby's opens, but Elizabeth gets too close to Baby and gets killed. Circus Baby's Pizza World closes on its opening day due to gas leaks, and is what causes Circus Baby's Pizza and Rentals to be created. Elizabeth's death really causes William to go insane, and is partly why he commits the FNAF 2 murders. And so we get to the weird part, Molten MCI. So I didn't talk about this in my first sister location video because, well, honestly, I didn't know what it was. I still don't exactly know what the MCI is. Is it the first batch of murders? The second? Also, it just seemed like an advanced topic that people felt really strongly about, and I didn't really want to mess with that. But now after watching ID's Fantasy's video and doing some research of my own, I can explain more. So, Molten Freddy is entered, right, but Molten Freddy does have more parts. This also ties into Security Breach, but first we gotta back up just a bit. So, William takes apart the 1985 animatronics, injects their remnant into the Fun Times, and is disappointed with their lackluster performance. This is due to the fact that they have remnant but no souls. This means that they are very primitive and aren't as powerful as the puppet or baby who have both the soul and remnant in them. The souls of the MCI stayed at Freddy's, so William works his way into FNAF 2, while Michael is doing sister location. Michael gets scooped, Ennard is loose, and now we're caught up to where I was just a moment ago. So Ennard kicks out Baby because she wants to help Afton, and well, obviously the remnant of the MCI aren't gonna like William, so they kick her out. And now they go their separate ways. Michael goes to FNAF 2 but is too late. William already murdered more kids on night 6. At this point, William can't go back home and confront Michael because that would just be weird. I mean, Michael showed his intent to hunt down William. So William did the classic dad move and just left. Meanwhile, Ennard is collecting more and more robot parts from literally anywhere. He is fueled not only by the remnant inside him, but also the agony. I hate the idea of agony, by the way, but that doesn't matter. Now, how does this sound familiar? The Stitch Wraith. The Stitch Wraith does the same thing. It also looks a little bit like Ennard. From now I'll be calling Ennard Molten Freddy just to make things easier. But it's time to put this on hold for a bit. So after William leaves Michael, he decided to do another sweep of the 1985 location and, well, he gets spring-trapped. Wait, does this mean that there are gaps in the FNAF 3 minigames? Yes. In ID's video, they say that the FNAF 3 phone calls are also not all happening in the same time period but are spread out due to the first half of it talking about using the Springlock suits and the latter half talking about the retirement of the Springlock suits. So if the phone calls can be spread out, then the minigames can too. In fact, the whole game of FNAF 3 is spread out. It was recently discovered that Michael showed up to FNAF 3 on night 1 but wasn't interested due to the lack of animatronics until Phone Dude had to call him back saying that he got springtrapped. But I digress. So William gets locked in the back room of the 1985 location, which just so happens to be the FNAF 1 location. Whoa, that came out of nowhere. Actually, it doesn't. In ID's Fantasies video, they point out that after the FNAF 2 location closes, Fazbear Entertainment are put on a way lower budget, which is why the withered animatronics become the FNAF 1 animatronics. They didn't have enough money to create new robots, so they just refurbished the old ones. Now, I don't think they outright say it in their video, but it was heavily implied that the FNAF 1 location was made in the 1985 location. This is also why it is so run down. In the FNAF 3 minigames, the location is very run down with leaky ceilings and it's a very dark environment. FNAF 1 is the same. Building a Freddy's location over another isn't entirely out of the question either. The Pizzaplex was built over FNAF 6 after all. So while Michael is at FNAF 1, William is there too in the sealed off room, but Michael doesn't know it. So Michael burns down FNAF 1 and leaves. This explains why the phantom animatronics are burnt looking in FNAF 3, and why Springtrap is so withered, because, he got burnt a little bit. So Michael does this nonsense in FNAF 3, and then the ending unfolds. Alright, this is it. This is where I make a stand. This is where I decide. The FNAF 3 ending is complex, Scott said. If the good ending is true, then you could just have the cop-out that the Remnant is still fueling Molten Freddy and that's how he's active. But I'm going to make a stand. The answer is complex, he said. That's because the answer is both. While some spirits do get released, most don't. I think the second batch of kids move on, and Crying Child does have his happiest day, but the rest, they aren't as forgiving. Especially Cassidy. And so there you have it. Molten Freddy does in fact have the MCI souls in him. The way I see it, Ennard goes to the FNAF 1 and 2 locations looking for more parts, because with the remnant of the children in him, he has some kind of inclination to go there after the places are burnt down. And since the souls are still there, they're looking for a place to go, so they go inside Ennard, who is now Molten Freddy. Also, the real reason why I think that Molten Freddy has souls in him is because of his voice lines. He actually talks, which by all means he shouldn't. The only other characters who really talk, who aren't just normal canned voice lines are Afton and Baby, and that's because they're just practically people. Afton is just alive in there, and Baby has both her soul and the remnant in her, making her high functioning. Also Charlie, the puppet, Phone Guy says that the puppet is always thinking at all times. It's not like the others, it's smarter. This is because Charlie's soul and remnant are in the puppet, giving it a higher level of thinking. So it would make sense for Molten Freddy to also have this due to it talking and saying things that it really shouldn't be saying as a burnt down hunk of metal. All of this also ties into Security Breach. Look at the blob. It looks a lot like Funtime Freddy, doesn't it? Exactly, because it is. So after FNAF 6 and everything burnt down, obviously it didn't work and the souls lingered, or at least the agony did. And so, Molten Freddy continues collecting more and more parts and becomes the Amalgamation, which is what I think it's canonically called in Security Breach. That's all of the bigger evidence. Time to move on to some smaller things. Funtime Foxy. I didn't explain this well last time, so I'm gonna say it here. Funtime Foxy definitely came before Toy Foxy. Henry has obviously shown that he's okay with copyright, examples being the mediocre melodies, or to a greater extent, Nedbear in particular. So why wouldn't he do it again? Also, William is simply too proud to copy Henry. William's whole thing is that he is jealous of Henry. He goes from worship to jealousness to resenting him. There's no way that he would copy the guy he hates so much. That's partly the reason why he makes Afton Robotics, to distance himself from Henry. He wanted to make a name for himself. He wanted his name on the new robots, the better robots. Another small piece of evidence is that William gets caught for his crimes but just doesn't get convicted. This would make him probably tell Michael to finish his work in case he has to skip town or he does go to prison. I also said this before, but I'll say it again. Don't give me crap about Michael not being old enough to be a technician. He is of working age and he's literally William's son. It's also all very under the table. All William had to do was pull some strings and boom, Michael's a technician. Another big basic point of evidence is the fact that FNAF takes place during the night shift. Michael takes the night shift, A, so no one will be around so he can tamper with the animatronics, but most importantly because no one will be able to see that he's a rotting corpse. And so there you have it, the definitive explanation of sister location. This is it. I'm pretty happy with this. This is the most finished and fleshed out version of sister location in my opinion. Now there are some things that I just didn't explain well, that being the whole molten MCI thing. If you want more information about that, watch ID's Fantasies video. Even if you don't want more information, just watch it, it's really good. I'll leave a link in the description or comments or something, maybe both. The second confusing thing for me is the second batch of murders. Like, are the animatronics all possessed by Gabriel, Lucy, Cassidy, Jeremy, and Fritz, or is it the second batch of kids too? So that's something to think about. But considering that we don't know their names, they probably don't matter. Sorry, dead kids. Alright, so that's it. That's the theory, I guess. As always, I'm just a random person, and, I'm not a professional, I'm not MatPat, I'm not ID's Fantasy. I did minimal amount of research for this, but I think it works a little bit. So, if I'm wrong, I don't care, it's part of the process, but if I'm right, that'd be cool. Everything could be wrong. I could be wrong about everything, who knows? But, that's part of the fun of it, learning and everything. And I mean, it's just a theory, right? A game theory.